Thank you for joining me today to talk about these topics that are important for those going out on their own or getting out of school, etc. Today we're going to talk about the studio versus salon, and so I guess we'll start off. So everyone, this is Inhye Kim. She works at
Bescene
Bescene still.
Studios.
Yeah, Bescene Studios in Rockville.
hmm
And so, is that a studio or a salon? Tell us a little bit about how that structure works.
So it is a salon. It's a commission-based salon. I would say the main difference from my past experiences is that there's a lot of freedom. It doesn't
Okay.
have the vibe of corporate, or it doesn't have a vibe of like somebody breathing down your neck, telling you to meet your goals and your numbers. Very focused on being creative. Let's see. So this would be my fifth salon since I have started on the floor as a stylist.
Okay. And you would say that where you're at now is very different in that you're used to having people talking to you about your numbers and setting goals with you a lot, or
Yeah, I
can you
felt like
clarify
there
that a
that
little
was
bit?
definitely the main objective, right? Because obviously it's a business, so the owner
Right.
has to meet their numbers. But it wasn't, from my experience, it wasn't focused on them wanting me to grow. It was more about they wanted the salon to grow. So the
Right.
approach was a little different. And I don't think I realized it at the time. I like to meet my goals and set my goals and, try to get to it and get to the next level. But at that time, I didn't realize that I was missing that creative aspect of it. And I think that
Totally.
as a hairstylist is like one of the most important, if not the most important, aspect
I
of
would
your
say
drive.
totally. I would say the number one most important thing is inspiration and
hmm
motivation. And
Yeah.
without that, you're just showing up for a paycheck, and it's only a matter of time before you don't have any more clients.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, so it's like easy to see clients as a number, but I
Right.
think when you have that like creative freedom and you're focused on your art and your craft, then your client is not just a number, it's really just like your palette. So I've really enjoyed working where I am now.
So what type of controls are there in place? If they're a business, I imagine that like they're not like, oh yeah, you're hired, here's your chair, but but if you only want to come in one day a week, that's cool. I mean, I'm sure they want to use that chair, don't they? I mean, I
Yeah.
would think that there's some level of business coming down from the management, right? Or I mean,
Yes,
I'm
we
curious.
do have
I
a
have no idea.
manager. We have a full-time manager. She is amazing. She's really the backbone of how everything functions. She is 100% there to support you, whatever you need. She's like, let me work it out, figure it out, and we'll get it for you. So I think that's a really good way of approaching from the business perspective because,
Yeah.
if you're producing money as a business, then you should put that back into, you know, the people that are producing the income for you. Um, so there is structure, but I would say it's not the structure that I've been accustomed to. We
What type of expectations are there by your boss?
So we do have goals. Well, right now because of the pandemic, things are a little different. It's kind of survival mode at this point because I'm in
Totally, yeah.
Montgomery County, so the restrictions are pretty tight.
Okay.
But prior to that, it was, what kind of goals do you want to set yourself up for in the next quarter, in the next 6 months? Where do you see yourself in a year? And how can I help you reach those goals?
Okay.
It was a
So
different approach because before I was used to this is what you need to do to get to that. You need to, sell this many more retail to clients. You have to add this many more services per client. It was kind of in that kind of structure, but now it's this, what can I do for you in order for us to get to that goal? So it's like a team effort, which I appreciate. So I think that's been the main difference. And the approach from the business side of it, it also works for the salon because it's more motivating and it comes a little bit more naturally as opposed to like trying to always have it in my head, like, oh, I got to reach this number,
So would it be fair to say that it's it's similar to what you're used to in the past in the back end, but on the front end, the way it's presented and the way it's carried throughout is so different that you don't even feel like it's a thing that's on your mind.
Yeah.
In
I
so many
think
words.
you said that perfectly.
Yeah. Cool. So you just basically you found a place that you like the way they talk and they like the way they approach, but they're still sounds like they're running a business. They just are using best practices, which is help your team set goals. Don't tell them what their goals are. A little bit more empathy and consideration for your people as people and not just cogs in a machine.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
appreciated and
totally.
valued.
Awesome. I totally got you. I'm love to hear that. I like to transition into hiring and interviewing. This topic is important for mostly for the young stylists coming up, getting out of
Sure.
school, or maybe they're in school. There are a lot of stylists that have lost the salon has closed.
Mm,
I know of like at least five or six in the DMV off the top of my head that have closed, and so
yeah.
that's leaving a lot of stylists. 30 to 50 stylists that I know of that are out of a home. Let's start with so if you worked at five salons, well, how many interviews have you been on?
I would
Yeah,
say 5.
so five interviews turned into five jobs.
Yeah.
If we could all
Well,
be so
maybe
lucky.
maybe it's closer to 4 interviews and 5 jobs.
Oh, so someone just handed you one,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you during the process? What was attractive or not attractive to you during the process as an interviewee, someone trying to get a job? What type of things turned you on or turned you off from that place you were interviewing?
So I think my first interview out of beauty school, it was a great situation. It was a salon that was pretty new, just a year into opening.
Okay.
And the owner had a lot of ideas, like great ideas, especially for someone new coming out of beauty school, like a roadmap to when I would get on the floor and what would, you know, be everything in between. So I like
Yeah.
that. I like that she had a roadmap to my immediate future. Um,
Can I ask you about that? The roadmap. Um, that's interesting. Did she have it written down or did she say?
no, it wasn't formalized. It was more verbal, but she sold it
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Because once I
Okay. So
started working, it was a different story. But
that's
she
what I was
had it in
my
her
next question.
mind, and I think if she had been able to, um, you know, have a strategy written down and really like follow the steps and protocols and implement
Yeah.
those, I think it would have been very successful. So
So
I
she did not stick to that roadmap. Is that what you're saying?
no, I think her intentions were good, and because it was a new salon, there was a lot of learning curves there.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot out of that, what it takes to start a new salon and all the drama that goes behind it. But I did love that she had
So
a roadmap, and I love that she had a staff that was willing to teach. She was
okay,
very education focused and very team oriented, which I appreciated.
okay. Did you
Um,
get good classes and education out of there at least?
Not necessarily formal classes, but the stylists that were already on the floor, they were really great mentors. There
Okay,
was
cool.
nobody there that was like, "Don't look at what I'm doing. Don't talk to my clients." It wasn't that kind of attitude. It was very warm and kind. So
Okay,
there was a lot of growth that happened there, and I was there for about a little over a year. Yeah.
okay. And I cut you off. You were about to say what was not attractive in an interviewing
Yeah,
experience.
so not attractive is when I feel like they're trying to sell you a dream.
Okay,
And I haven't really been in too many unattractive interviews. I would say the one that was maybe the least attractive out of all of them was another new salon, and that's what it was. They try to sell you a dream. and
Hmm.
it wasn't really based off of anything because obviously it was a new establishment, so they themselves are living through that dream too.
Right.
But it was a negative because it wasn't structured. Again, it was just a lot of like words thrown out there and a lot of ideas. So I think I'm the kind of person that really wants things written down and mapped out and planned out so that I can like visually see it and create a map in my mind, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. When you were looking at a new salon, let's go back to like earlier in your career, because I think we understand what that later in your career you're looking for creative space and a creative team and a little more flexibility. Now, maybe that has been the same throughout your career, but you know, when you were looking for a new salon, what things were you really primarily focused on?
Hmm. Definitely education. That's always a
Okay.
big thing for me.
Okay.
Education,
What about
whether it's
compensation?
like competition,
No, sorry, go ahead.
um, whether it's like learning from other stylists in the group or me being able to teach, just this constant back and forth. I feel like that it's the engine for creativity. So
Yeah.
that's always been my number one. I always ask like, so what's your education setup like?
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think that's great. Education for me is number one. I don't want to work somewhere with no I worked somewhere for a while that, you know, they told me they had education, and I think I was averaging maybe one class every 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
Like that was, yeah. So they called themselves an academy and they said that they had training, but it just wasn't there. But then I worked somewhere that had so much training, like 2, 3 classes a week, you know,
Whoa.
and I definitely preferred that. I mean, it wasn't
Mhm.
mandatory. But it was there if you wanted to take the classes. You had plenty of education.
Wow,
Um,
that's a lot. What kind of classes were these?
Hair cutting, cutting, basic color, advanced cutting.
Wow. And was this like outside educators coming in or like within the staff?
No, it was all internal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think you did that impressed the interviewer? Like if you had 4 interviews, but you've worked in 5 salons, you must be impressing people. So why don't you give someone a little bit of insight to your secret
Huh.
sauce?
Well, I can't give it all away.
No, okay, fine, but
Um,
a little bit.
I think it's that like hunger. They
Okay.
might tell you something different, but for me, I have this like insatiable hunger inside me that once I am fulfilled, I want more. Like I'm constantly opening these new boxes, and maybe I'm able to express that during the interview. I've never
Okay.
been in an interview where I had to like showcase my work, where you bring in a model and you do your work.
Yeah.
I mean, now thanks to Instagram, like it's all there for you.
Right.
But I think it's definitely that passion of wanting to be a part of something bigger.
Okay.
And when you have that, I think it brings something to the table, you know, because anybody can learn how to do some highlights or do a haircut. But as an employee, you want something to build your team. You always want to fill in the gaps of what you're missing in that team, like your own little family. And I think I know that trying to build that family, that community, um, is really important for me too. And I'm able to convey that. You
Okay.
know, first thing I ask aside from education is what's the culture like?
And what kind
Does
of
everyone get
answers
along?
So what kind of answers do they give, and what kind of answers are you looking to a question like that? Because like I can imagine if I interviewed someone, they asked me that question, um, I'm not sure. Like I can think of how to answer it, but I'm curious to know, like from your perspective as the person being interviewed, asking that question, what are you looking for, and what type of answers do you get? And they don't have to be the same thing.
I need honesty. Sometimes you can tell when they're like just making it up, like, oh, everyone gets along great here. We're like really tight family. Um, that's great to hear. But but I also want to hear like the realistic side of it. Like, yeah, we all get along great. But sometimes people butt heads. Sometimes there are challenges, but we overcome them. We have team meet set up. We have periodical get-togethers or, strengthening group type exercises, something like that.
Okay.
Um, like contests or games throughout the year to build that team effort, I guess,
Yeah.
something to that extent. Because in a salon, it happens like we're very passionate people and sometimes there's drama, but I think the owner or the manager, they have to know how to diffuse that and have tools to be able to, um,
I don't think I would have answered it the way that you just explained it. If there is an issue, there's some sort of mechanism for deliver. I actually worked at a salon that they didn't want to deal with any problems. They told you to deal with it yourself, which just created a ton of resentment and
hmm,
turned the salon into cliques, and people would
yeah.
argue. I mean, people would literally get in like straight up aggressive arguments in front of clients. Uh, you know, so what if someone was like, so that you were like, oh, what's the culture? And they were like, well, John's an asshole, so just stay away from him. But the sweetest person in the world is Jane, so like definitely hang out with her. But and then like Sam, like if you catch him on the wrong day, then it's gonna be a problem. But other than that, we're great.
This will be me. Like, peace out.
Yeah. I'd be so daring to make the argument that, bold, I should say, to make the argument that working at a place where everyone is on the same wavelength and vibe, um, that's like amazing. Like, I mean, I've worked in places that were like that, but it's never forever. Like, there's,
Hmm.
as there's some sort of turnover, new people come in, and that's usually because a lot of the businesses are run by people who are interested in the growth of the business, going back to some of the stuff you were talking about earlier.
Right.
And, like just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean that you should work here. Like, sounds like a challenge for the salon owner. Have you ever turned down a job that wanted you?
Yes, I
Yes.
have. Yeah,
Can
quite
you
a few
tell?
times.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Um, well,
And then tell us why and like how it went down and why
I
you
I
said
wouldn't
no.
I wouldn't take it so seriously because it's not like they had a contract written out and they're like, "Here, please work with us." It was more um, reaching out by Instagram or getting a hold of my email through colleagues or something like that.
Okay, so what is one piece of advice for a stylist applying for the first time or first time in a long time? Someone.
Don't sell yourself short. You got to really know what you're worth. You
Okay.
believe in yourself and say, I'm a good stylist, or I have the potential to learn and grow. That's an asset to the company you want to work for. So I would say go into it with confidence and belief in yourself. Don't go into it like, I'll be so lucky to work here. Look at it as they will be lucky to have you.
I love that. Okay, and what is a piece of advice for an owner or manager looking to hire someone like yourself?
I guess it goes both ways. The salon itself, if you really want to recruit talented people who are motivated and driven and work well in a team, I
Hmm.
think you yourself have has to create that culture. And I think there's not so much you can say in words than the vibe that the person gets in the salon. So I don't know. I don't know what words I could give other than
Don't
set
make
set up
shit
the
up.
environment. Yeah, don't make sure to be honest. Like
Yeah. The
clean
fuck.
up clean up your salon when there's someone coming in.
Oh man, it's like if you like your salon, just sell your salon the way it is. Like if it's worth working at, people will work there. Otherwise, you're just going to be
Exactly.
hiring people and they're going to be leaving.
That's right.
Oh.
Like you go in
Duh.
there and you're like, why are the towels piled up? You got assistant. Oh wait, the assistants are running around. They look like their head's been cut off. You're like, there's color balls everywhere. What's going on here? Are you hiring a stylist or an assistant?
Totally. Okay, cool. That was great. Well, for a laugh, at the end of each interview, I asked people to share with us one mortifying or horrifying story that was not necessarily funny at the time, but looking back on it, you can't help but laugh.
Dang, I can't even. It still makes my heart pound. It makes me want to cry. There's been a lot of funny stories, but I think the one where I start blushing is I actually cut off the tip of someone's ear
Oh,
while we were talking about cutting someone's ear.
oh no.
You know, it was a men's cut, and I was like trimming around his
Oh,
ear with my scissors, and he's like, "Have you ever cut someone's ear?" And I was like, "No." I was like,
oh
and
no.
the ear doesn't. They say it doesn't stop bleeding, and it's so true. I couldn't finish the cut because like we couldn't get it to stop bleeding, and literally the tip of his ear was gone.
The bottom tip, the lobe, or
The
the
top,
top?
the top.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, the top, and his ear was stuck to my scissors.
No way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, I had kind of blocked that out of my mind until I saw like the questions you were going to ask me. And I was like, what's a good one to, and then it all came rushing back. I was like, oh my God. Yep, that happened.
Oh, well, you know
Yeah.
what? Don't worry. That's actually similar story to mine. I was cutting my mentor's ear. Thank goodness it was my mentor. But like I did cut the top of his ear off, but it was luckily mine wasn't his ear wasn't stuck to my scissors though. That would have I might have vomited. And so like it's like dangling. And guess what? I had finished. I was done this side. And so thank goodness when I cut the ear off, it was dangling. I get queasy, but that time I jumped in, I tried to help him bandage it. And he was like, I was in the bathroom with him, and he's like turning to me, he goes, just let me do this on my own. And so I walked outside. He comes out, he had a bandage this big on his ear, and he goes, now finish the other side. Get your shit together. and then he goes, oh, do you want I got Wizards tickets if you want them. And I'm like, yo, dude, you're the coolest person on the planet. And I
Wow.
feel like I couldn't even like barely move my hands. Like I was like so nervous I couldn't cut. So I can't imagine seeing the ear on my scissors. That would have been just a whole nother level. Whole nother level. Oh my
And there was a
gosh.
moment where you try to pretend it didn't happen, and and then you see the blood starting to come out. And thank God the client was so gracious. He's like, honestly, it doesn't hurt. It's okay. I don't feel a thing. And you know
Wow.
what? I charged him. Looking back, I
Oh,
regret charging him, but I charged him for that haircut.
did he ever come back?
No, nope, never saw him
Oh
again.
man.
I
Oh
gotta ask you who
no.
your
Jeez.
mentor was. That's crazy. His ear was dangling. That's nuts.
It was dangling. He ended up having to go get stitches.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, thank goodness was my mentor because I just I mean, and I hadn't been working there that long, so thank goodness it was like I brought a few people with me and uh yeah, I'm just
Oh my
it could
gosh. So
have
you were
been a lot
new.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have been a lot worse. You know, so actually for the
Whew.
whole time I worked that place, every time my mentor came in for a haircut, the owner would walk up and be like, watch that ear for like for like 8 years.